calls me Waka Waka Doctor, and it's for obvious reasons. Waka Waka Doctor is an informal lingo that was coined about 3 years ago from the mere fact that I'm a medical doctor who enjoys traveling. So Waka Waka is an African term, or African jingoism, a term that describes a nomad, someone who enjoys traveling, and doctor because I'm a medical doctor and I still see patients in the hospital. Oruko Mini, well, I'm never going to tell you that because I want to keep my name a mystery. Those who know me and know where I've come from and have met me and have been in the same classroom with me or worked with me know my real name. But at the moment, I like to keep a certain form of mystery, keep myself semi-anonymous, just to create a sort of mystery behind the brand Waka Waka Doctor. I think if you go on Google and do a search of my name, one of the parameters that would come up would be, what is Waka Waka Doctor's real name? Eventually you'll find out, but at the moment, let's keep it closed. So at the core of my existence and everything I do, you'd want to think about discipline and consistency. And that's why I take everything I do every day, it's very important to me. So I wake up every day praying to God because I want to be thankful of the day before. I want Him to guide me through everything I do. So it's very important for me to connect with my Creator. I pray to Him. I love my cappuccino, and so I would definitely have one drink of cappuccino every morning, the drink of the gods. I go on walks. I either go on short walks or a short run, whichever works for me and whichever my mood wants me to do that day. And then I connect with my family because I'm abroad and we are all scattered. We need to talk and keep in touch. So I always do that. Then I go on my phone, post on all my social media apps, talk with people who need information with me, respond to comments, make posts, and engage my community. And that's what I do throughout my day. If I have to work, I do the work. If I have to play, I play as well. It's very, very important to be disciplined because if you're not, you lose focus. You definitely won't be able to achieve your goals. And one of the ingredients of achieving goals is discipline. So if there's anything you need, aside consistency, is being disciplined. I'm not saying you should be rigid. There's a difference between being rigid and being disciplined. You have to have that goal, be focused, and achieve it. I was born in Lagos. My mom is passed now, about 5 years, and my dad is an engineer, a retired engineer. I've got 3 siblings, I like to say. I grew up in the distant parts of Lagos, very close to Ifakojai. I went to primary school, secondary school in Lagos, and then attended Nigerian-trained University, Okada, where I got my medical degree. And I've been a medical doctor for more than a decade now. I have practiced medicine in 4 or 5 different countries, and I have licenses to practice medicine in these countries. Believe it or not, I never wanted to be a doctor, never in my life. I never thought I was going to be a doctor. Actually, I wanted, at a point in time, I wanted to be an accountant because I wanted to count money. I wanted to count money for the rest of my life. And as I grew a little bit older, I felt that, it was good to discover stuff. And then I said I was going to become an astronaut. I was going to go into space. And I wrote SAT exams. I got admission into Berea College to study something in astrology or astronomy or something like that. And my dad was like, no chance. How many astrologists do you know? How many astronomers do you know? Why would you say you want to work in a bank? For what? No. I don't want to write letters asking for people to give you a job. No, you're going to study a course where you don't have to beg anybody for jobs. And that was how he came about. He was a telecoms engineer with the biggest telecoms company in Nigeria at the time. My dad decided that I had to study medicine. And so he forced me basically to study medicine. And it was a tug of war. We had several fights, and after my second year in medicine, I fell in love with it and I kept passing my exams. And I just thought, okay, look, I love people. I love to talk with people. I love caring for people. I have a lot of empathy. I like to look after the needs of people. So we give it a crack, and that's how I became a doctor. Growing up as a kid, if you think about the family I grew up in, it was just straitjacket. You had to be very knowledgeable, go to school, get good grades, and just become someone good. in life. But if you want to take another perspective and look around, and my mom of blessed memory used to say that, and I'll say this in Yoruba, it says "Onokan Owoja," which simply means that every marketplace, every shopping mall, has several doors, and that's the way your life has to be like. So you cannot just wake up and say, every day I'm a medical doctor going to work, every day I'm a teacher going to school, every day I'm a banker going to bank. You need to have several other things you're doing. You need to affect the lives of people through several outlets. And so with that at the back of my mind, it was never enough to just be a medical doctor. I needed to do other things. I had been a teacher for a short term before. I have been a clinical tutor for a short term before. And so when I found this opportunity to educate people as to how they can move abroad, it was something I knew would influence the lives of people. It's not something I thought of when I was, in my 20s or in my teenage years. No, definitely not. It's something that grew up on me as I grew older. And to answer your question, whether or not I thought growing up back then I would have this much influence as I have now, definitely not. But I'm very thankful for where I am at the moment, and I'm thankful for where I'm going to. My mom had a very, very large part to play in who I am today. And this is not to say that my dad didn't. My dad also played a very large portion. But there's a difference between the both of them. There's a difference in their parenting skills. My dad was very laid back, wasn't the disciplinarian in the house, never touched me as a kid, never shouted or yelled at me, but you didn't want to disappoint him, because you could see the disappointment in his eyes, and he led by example. So you always wanted to copy or be like your dad. Everybody respected him, in our area, in our community. He was respected at work. People came to him for solutions, people came to him for answers, and that was the kind of man I wanted to grow up to be. He was social, he was likable. My mom, on the other hand, was a disciplinarian. My mom could literally raise her voice and you could hear it 5 streets away. That was the kind of person she was. She was a teacher and would have taught me and my siblings and my cousins while we're growing up. And up till today, even some of the people in our area would come to her because she was a teacher. And up till today, when you meet some of these kids who have grown up 30, 20 years after, they'll still say that your mom shaped my life. Your mom made me become what I have, what I am today. She was strict. She was a good teacher. One story that rings deep in my head, I was with my cousin and we're taking evening lessons with my mom. She asked us a very simple question in current affairs. And unknown to my cousin and I, the guy who was at the helm of affairs was changed me about 2 weeks ago. My mom was such a person who wanted us to always watch the news, read the newspaper. You have to be in tune with what's going on. And we missed it. Oh my God, my mom pulled our ears, pulled our ears all through the corridor. How can you not know the answer? How can you not, we know the answer, we just forgotten. That's the kind of person she was. I don't want to disappoint my parents, my mom, my dad. I always want to get the best of what I have to offer. Whether you have a disciplined parenting style or not, I think you can be whatever you want to be in life. The earlier you realize it, the better for you. You can be anything you want to be. And I think that our lives as individuals, as adults, can be shaped at any point in time. It's easier or better if your childhood is shaped and you follow it gradually. But even in your teenage years or even in your adult life, you could pick up things from people that have influenced you. If your parents don't influence you, your classmates might influence you, your friends might influence you, that neighbor, that teacher might influence you, and automatically, sum up what you eventually become in life. So even if you don't have the type of parenting background that I had, you could at one point in time or the other meet someone who's going to influence your life positively. The onus is on you to pick the positive things as you walk through your life, and then eventually sculpture or mold your life in the way you want it to be. Believe it or not, I never wanted to leave Nigeria, and I'm speaking as a Nigerian now. I always wanted to stay back home and walk through things and walk through the challenges. But I was a medical doctor, a young medical doctor who, my first job, I was seeing 250 patients, 300 patients in a single day. And trust me, I couldn't give my best. I was owed salary for 6 months. And so the thought was just at the back of my mind. I was giving all my best, was not compensated as much as I would love to. I didn't think that I was giving my best. I didn't think the patients were getting the quality of health service that they deserve. And so one of these days, and to top it all off, I was doing 2 jobs and my salary was less than $200. 2 jobs, less than $200. And so one of these days I was just going home and I decided to go to this popular restaurant close to my workplace. I love the food. I got there and I found this newspaper and I went through the newspaper and there was a job vacancy for a position in the Middle East, and it was going to be a fully sponsored job, visa taken care of, accommodation taken care of, flights taken care of, 45 days paid leave, health insurance, and I was going to be earning money in foreign currency. I was going to be earning about 20 times what I was earning. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. And the interview for that exam was the next day. And I abandoned my food because I had to travel, abandoned my food, ran home, got my documents, took the late night bus and found myself in Lagos. The next day, I just got a shirt, wore the same pants I had, went for the interview. There and there, it was brilliant, passed the interview, and we discussed salary just right there. It was a no-brainer for me. My first job was in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It's a Muslim country, very conservative country, totally different from what I was used to. Even though my father is a Muslim, my mom was a Christian, and I grew up knowing a bit of Islam, but it was still different from what I was used to because I lived most of my adult life as a Christian. My mom had her fears at the time. Would you be able to survive in a Muslim community? Would you be able to survive in a society that's very conservative? But my eye was on the goal, yeah? I needed money. I needed to earn in dollars, for God's sake. And so since everything was going to be paid for, I've got nothing to lose. If it doesn't work out fine, I come back home. If it works fine, and then we'll proceed that way. So I went up there, had a few culture shocks, but I survived 2 years, wrote my exams, and I just continued working up myself in my career. No guilt, zero guilt for moving abroad. All positives, 100%. Do I think I might be where I am now if I had stayed back home? I can't tell, but retrospectively looking at it, I doubt that so much. I think making that move abroad was the best thing I could have done. My colleagues and I at the time, we had meetings with the government of Osun State. We met with the governor, we met with senior officials at the time. We tried to find a way to solve the problem of backlogs with payments of doctors and health officials, provision of facilities for doctors to work with, creating a conducive learning environment for doctors in the hospital, upgrade in the equipment and facilities they had. But this wasn't forthcoming. I was there for a year, there was no change. And so I thought it was best to make the move. But did I try? It was not a solution I could have rendered by myself, but as a team, as a group of doctors at the time, we did make an effort. So in Saudi Arabia, I felt loved, I felt adored. At a point, I felt worshipped. It was a contrast to what I had been used to in Nigeria. Right from the airport, just for the mere fact that they saw doctor on my passport and saw doctor on my documents, I'd never felt that way before. I was treated with so much respect. My bags were carried, the door was opened for me into the car. Do you need this? Do you want this? Do you want that? We can give you this. And I was stunned. And they always wanted to be sure that I was fine. Took me to my hospital. There was a difference. I moved from seeing 200, 250 patients in a day to seeing 2 in a day. I was seeing 2 patients in a day, earning more money, and I was working maybe 4 or 5 hours in a day, but I was only spending 1 hour seeing patients, and the rest of the day I was reading. So there was a good balance. I wasn't, fatigued by the workload. I had opportunities to still excel and improve myself academically, because as a medical doctor, you're still training yourself. You still have to read books. You still have to upskill. And so that gave me an opportunity to do that as well. So there was a better work-life balance in Saudi Arabia. for sure. And it was my first time moving abroad, but I could see the difference. I could see equipments that only studied in the books, equipments that I'd only read about in the books, practices that I'd only seen in the books. I had the opportunity to now use those equipments. I couldn't ask for more. It was nothing short of, excitement for me. My experience there was that the government, as a medical doctor, the government cared more about whoever, was working in the field, in the health sector. It doesn't matter whether you're a foreigner, it doesn't matter whether you're Saudi, so long as you're a doctor with responsibilities towards Saudi citizens and whoever it is, they had the sole responsibility to also take care of you. The problems we have back home is nobody cares. Nobody cares. In 2023, in Nigeria, there's no supplementary budget for health. So if there's no supplementary budget for health, it means that you would not pay doctors, you would not pay other health staff. They can as well just hope that there will be no increment in their salaries. Would there be an upgrade in the facilities? Definitely not. So these are some of the issues that we have back home, which was a huge contrast to what I experienced in Saudi Arabia. The Saudis were very particular. They would send doctors abroad to acquire skills and come back home. That's how it should be. Go out, go to the United States, go to the United Kingdom, go to the Republic of Ireland, go to Canada, go to all these countries, Asian countries, India, learn skills and come back home to implement it so that we can be better. It was painful to see, but that's how they've gradually grown and, upgraded themselves and become one of the best when it comes to healthcare in the world. I have colleagues who, never took the plunge, always wanted to stay back home and, they never left. Some of them have become higher than I am, in terms of level as a medical doctor. Some of them had regrets later on and then decided to move. Some of them are still there, not doing anything related to medicine and hoping that they had taken, they had made the move at the time. But I think different tropes for different folks, isn't it? You just look at what works for you at the time and then you make that decision and you walk that path. So yeah, there are colleagues of mine who didn't make the move. Some of them doing better, some of them not doing as much as I am. When you move abroad, not just even Saudi Arabia alone, when you move abroad, as a migrant, it's always difficult. We don't talk about struggles migrants face, but I think personally, and I can tell many stories. We probably won't leave here if I tell all the stories. But I had struggles. I left home, Christian background, coming to a predominantly Muslim country. Things were different. I didn't have to go to work on a Friday. One of these days on a Friday, I woke up, I felt hungry, I left my house, walked up on the street. I had to maybe about 4-kilometer walk to get something to eat. But I was walking for 10 minutes and it didn't click to me that everywhere was silent, dead quiet, and I was the only one walking. It didn't click to me as to why. I just kept on walking, and after a few minutes, I looked at all the shops that were closed, but I'm still going. I keep walking. It was just me, no cars, nothing. And after a few minutes, I just see a truck cross me and stop. And I'm like, what is going on? What is going on? And in fact, for a few seconds, I thought I was dead. I thought I was dead. And you had all these people, they called them the religious police, and they came down and they were like, what are you doing outside? Where are you? Who are you? Ikama. The Ikama is a sort of your permanent residency card or your residency card just to identify you. So I showed it to them. I'm a new doctor. I don't know what's going on. And then, I was told it's prayer time. It's Juma. You need to respect prayer times. You shouldn't be outside. Everybody should be praying at this time. And so I quickly apologized and nobody told me what to do. I ran back. I didn't walk back, I ran back. So these are some of the instances. It was difficult learning the language. It took me about 6 months to understand and learn the language. Even the eating culture was different. There were hardly any chairs. You had to sit down on the floor, cross your legs, and use your hands. And you could literally walk into any restaurant and these guys would just call you and tell you, come and eat. That's how they are, very friendly. They don't care who you are. Come. And you don't tell an Arab no. When it tells you come and eat, come to my house, join me, you have to say yes, because in their minds, they've sized you up, they've looked at you and considered you to be worthy of joining them on the table or coming to their homes. So don't say no. If you say no, it's a sign of disrespect. So I felt very lonely as well because, I mean, like I said, for 6 months, I didn't understand the language. There was just one guy who was helping me with interpretation. And once I left him, there was nobody to communicate with. Even when I made Saudi friends, I couldn't visit them because most of them were married and you couldn't come into their houses because they had females in the house. I mean, it was very lonely. Saudi being a much more conservative place, you didn't have cinemas. If you went to any eatery, there was a door for men, there was a door for women, there was a door for families. So it was different. But like I always say, if you keep your eye on the goal as a migrant and you keep your eye on the target, then you'll be able to achieve what I want to achieve, you want to achieve. So for me, it was a difficult period, but it was short-lived because I had my eye on the ball. I knew what I was there for. And so while I struggled a bit, I was able to come out of it. Leaving Nigeria for the first time, after my documentation, my visa came through and, you know, I had parked. I had a lot of anxiety because I didn't know what to expect. Was I afraid? A tiny bit. Was I excited? Yes. But I didn't know what to expect. And so I was leaving home for the first time, leaving my parents, leaving my siblings. And I remember the journey to the airport. I was very quiet. I went with a friend and my mom had packed everything, pots, iron, foodstuff, everything you can imagine was packed by my mom. And, you know, she didn't just want you to have, you know, lack anything. But I was very quiet on, you know, the trip to the airport. And I remember sitting down there. I was wearing a blazer with a white shirt and a black trouser with one tiny shoes that my salary could afford at the time. And you know, I just stood there and I was like, what am I doing? Am I making the right decision? Is this the right thing to do? But then quickly, I would flip and be like, yeah, it's a challenge. You've always wanted this, you know, so you're going for it, go for it. I said my goodbyes to my mom. She cried, like I think most moms would do. Cried. Don't argue with any Muslim person, okay? Be careful what you say to them. You know, and the normal motherly advice. And my dad was just there, you know, the cool guy was just like, you know, I wish you all the best, you know, chop knuckle, you know, that's what fathers do, yeah? They try to pretend that they are strong, and yeah, I wish you all the best, you'll be fine, just make sure you make us proud and stuff like that. Said my goodbyes, and that was it. On the plane, luckily for me, I met a guy who was also going to Dubai, and first time leaving Nigeria, moving to Dubai as an engineer, and, you know, we had a good talk, we're seated together, and he had to leave me in Qatar. Moving onwards to Dubai, I had to go from Qatar to Saudi Arabia, and we continued speaking even when we got to our different destinations. I think that also helped because I kind of met someone who was also moving for the first time, and we continued to help each other till we finally found our fit wherever we were. So it was a daunting experience in total, but it was also I had a mixed bag of emotions: excitement, fear of the unknown mostly, a tinge of sadness that I was leaving home and I didn't know what to expect. But at the end of the day, it was fun for me. I always tell people, and I still do now, I say that when you're leaving home and moving to a new country, you have to have a plan. So while I left Nigeria because of the money, I knew I had other things in mind that I wanted to achieve. I wanted to, you know, reach the pinnacle of my career. I wanted to be able to, you know, practice in other countries, not just Saudi Arabia. So when I got to Saudi Arabia, I met doctors who had been there for 20, 25 years, 30 years, and they were in one position. You know, the money was very good. They were getting all the benefits, but no advancement because I was a foreigner. I was like, oh, no. And, you know, I was coming from a country with a weaker passport, and one of my goals was also to acquire a stronger passport. And Saudi Arabia was never going to give me that. Even if I live in Saudi Arabia for 200 years, I'm never going to become a Saudi Arabian citizen. So like, so what am I going to get here? So money was good, and experience was good. So once I knew that I could get that, the next thing was for me to make my plan. What's the next plan? So I started writing exams for the United Kingdom and the Republic of Ireland. And once I passed those exams, my time in Saudi Arabia was up. So I just made the move to Europe straight away. One of the reasons people want to move is because they want they want to experience a difference in different aspects of their lives. They want to grow in different aspects of their lives. You want to grow financially, you want to grow in your career, you want to grow in terms of your perspective, you want to broaden your horizon, you want to be able to do things you cannot do because of where you are at the moment. So leaving Nigeria to Saudi Arabia gave me growth financially because I earned much more money. It gave me growth experience-wise because I had local experience. I'm a Nigerian, practicing Nigerian, local experience. But now moving to the Middle East and Saudi Arabia gave me international experience. But then I need to grow in other aspects. I need to be able to practice in other countries. I need somewhere that would give me a passport where I'll be able to travel the world anytime I want to travel the world. So there are other aspects of life you want to grow. So you might grow in this part of your life and be stagnant in this part of your life. So you have to find a way to also, grow that part of your life so that they'll be equal. And so if this place where you are at the moment is not giving you that, then you have to make a plan to move. But remember that you are moving from A to B to C. And that's what I did. That's what I did. So I moved from A to B to C. So I did not move from A to B back to A. I was trying to grow. So I moved from A to B to give me growth. And then when I decided that I needed to grow other aspects of my life, it was time to move to C. And in the next few years, if I think that there are other aspects of my life I need to move as well, I'll move to D. Everybody is tired of the status quo. You've probably lived 20 years of your life, no electricity. The same road you grew up as a 2-year-old is still the same road on your street when you're 25. There's no improvement, no change. So people want to experience more. That's why people are leaving. Okay? The quality of education is better elsewhere. Financial remuneration is better elsewhere. Quality of life is better elsewhere. Social amenities are numerous and surplus elsewhere. So there's always a search for better. And this is one of the reasons why I moved, and this is why people are moving. I can't fix the country. I'm not Bob the Builder. I don't say that lightly because Africa is plagued with a lot of issues. I don't think I have the influence to effect any change. What I can do is try and change myself. And the whole concept of migration, even for me, is that we go out there, acquire the skills, acquire the experience, acquire as much as we can, and see if we can come back home and implement those things. But if we're fighting, this supreme power that doesn't want, development, that is opposed to anything, improvement and development, there's little we can do, But the idea behind migration for a lot of people, including myself, is let's go out there. Let's go and see the world. There's this popular saying that you would always think your father's garden is the best until you see somebody else's garden. So it's always good to see somebody else's garden and see that there's a huge difference. So go there, experience how they cultivate their own garden, experience how they deal with pests, experience how they make their flowers more beautiful. Get that experience, then come back to your home country and see if you can implement it. If you can implement it at even local government level, then maybe you've been able to achieve a thing. JAPA and moving abroad is a cycle. And until you close the loop, I don't think you've migrated. So you must JAPA and JAPADA. You must go and come back. Then you've closed the cycle. It's going to be different because you're moving from point A to point B. You're experiencing a totally different pattern of living. Everything is different. But you have to assimilate, acquire, adapt, change yourself, and then close the cycle and come back to affect the lives of people you've left. If you have not done that, then you have not completed that cycle of migration. So whether your life has taken a different turn, your life has changed because you've moved from Nigeria to Singapore, you've moved from Nigeria to Australia, you've moved from Nigeria to Canada, and your life is better, it has not actually fulfill the whole purpose of migration if it doesn't come back full circle, covering the loop, circling and closing that loop by affecting the lives of people you've actually left. I'm going to go back someday. I don't intend to live all my life abroad. I still want to see the rest of the world. I still want to practice in other countries as much as I can. But I know that, say, by the time I'm 50, 55, 60, I should be able to go back home. The thing is this: with respect to closing your circle, it's not about the age you decide to close the circle. And it's the effect you have when you close the circle is not about the legwork. You can influence the lives of people in different ways. I am telling a story that can affect the lives of people. If I go back to Nigeria when I'm 60, 65, I'll meet people who are 20, 25. I'll provide jobs for them. So let's assume I go back to Nigeria 65 and I set up a multi-million-dollar business. I'm going to employ people. That alone has changed the lives of those people. So you can get people who are unemployed. You've suddenly given them a job. You've created a job opportunity for them. You have caused an effect. And that's the whole essence of what I'm saying. Okay, so based on my experience of meeting, speaking, and having interacted with different people who've moved abroad, I think that there are two categories of people. There's a special class of people who their sole focus is just move abroad. We are running away from poverty. We're running away from hunger. We're running away from starvation. We're running away from deprivation. We just want to move to a place that is better than where we are at the moment, that gives us better conditions. The focus is on what's ahead, and we're never looking back. They will never close the circle. And we have the second class of people who want to go abroad, acquire, better education, acquire money, acquire experience with the sole intention of going back home to improve conditions. For both classes of people, I think they are right. Whatever step they've taken, they're absolutely right. What class do I belong to? I belong to the class that believes that I will go, I have gone, acquire money, acquire experience, acquire the technical know-how, and eventually come back to improve the lives of people that have left so that they can also have the opportunity to go as well and continue the cycle. The grand scheme of things, I feel whichever category you fall into, whichever position you take, you are definitely right.